channel. I'm Country Wood Girl, and today we have got a really cool woodworking video for you. We are going to be trying to make this. This top bit is based off the SAM MALOOF rocking chair. It does have a slight few tweaks to more our design, and if you wanted to see actually the rocking chairs being built, I have done a video on that recently, and I'll put the links up here, whichever side it comes on, and you can click on that and go watch that video first if you want, or I'll put it on at the end of this video and you can go and watch it after this video. But this is basically the same, apart from it doesn't have the legs. We'll be putting it on casters and probably doing something similar in cladding the casters ourselves. So if you're interested in watching how this is going to be made, then do stick around. I hope you enjoy the video, and it will probably be a 2-part video, so there'll be one part and then in a few weeks the next part will come out. So do click the notification bell to be notified when that video will come out. Subscribe to my channel, like it, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends and family, because it really puts a big smile on my face and makes this worthwhile doing. So let's go, let's make it. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go. So the timber we're going to be using today is elm, and we've got these big chunky boards, and we've got about 4 of these to go out to get 3 chairs out. So what I'm going to do first is I've got templates for all the different components. So as you can see, this is the headrest, and all I'm going to do is lay them on, draw around them, cut them out and leave them for a rough state at the moment. And then all we're going to do is focus on the seats. We're going to get the seats all planed up and glued together, and we're going to work from there and slowly get components out to the right sizes as we go. Normally in a woodworking process you'll want to do that all in one go at the start, because it's the fastest way of doing it. But with this one, with routing in joints and stuff, we're not too sure on exact widths of the legs and stuff, so we're going to do it one step at a time, and hopefully you can watch and keep up with what's going on. I'll try and do a little voiceover on now and again what is actually going on, but for now what we're going to do is get the rough templates and cut it out. So yeah, let's get on with that. I just thought I'd jump on here and give a little bit of a voiceover on what's going on. I know some of my woodworking projects do look complicated, but once you've got your head around it, it's really not. So the piece of timber that I've got here is actually a seat, and unfortunately the planer that we have can only mill 500 millimeters wide, and this is wider than that. And I really didn't want to cut it in half and glue it back together. I wanted it to be a solid lump, so I decided that I would level it with some MDF packers and glue them on, and then I was going to put it through the sander and flatten it that way. So you can see here that I'm putting it through, and one side will become nice and flat. So out of the whole build, this was maybe a slight undersight on what I was doing here and could have been done differently. But basically what I've done is I've made a trammel, and I was flattening off enough that I could get that router in to create a joint for the legs. Now,
it's easy to say now, but I really didn't need to do this. I could have just flattened the whole side completely, because at the end of the project I kind of end up doing that anyway. But at this time my thought was I would keep the seat as chunky as I could and kind of just blend it in a nice curve underneath, even though it's not really seen. However, being an office chair, there's a fair big component that has to get screwed to the bottom, and that kind of needed a flat base, so in the end I did have to flatten that off. So hindsight, if I was to do this again, I would just put that through the sander as well. But anyway, moving on, that doesn't really matter. It was just a slight, not a mistake, but could have been done different. But this is me creating the joint for the back leg here. So all I've done is I've made a 90-degree template, and I'm just using a guide bush to go off that, so you get a nice 90-degree cut. As you can see here, just finishing off with the router. I then go on to do a similar kind of thing with the front, just making a low jig to essentially just do the same, make a cutout with a router, with a bearing guide, a guide bush, but you could actually do that with a bearing guide as well if that's all that you have. It's just to make it a nice neat cut. This is now the rebate cutter that I use, and this is actually the cutter that creates that joint. So I did just hold up what the cutter was, so you could always pause the video and have a look at it there, because I can't remember off the top of my head. And I'm just basically cutting it in until that bearing guide runs across the cut that I just did, and that it's as simple as that. That's how it goes. You leave the corner nice and rounded, and you do top and bottom, you do your back joint and you do your front joint, as you can see on here. So as you can see, that's all the seats joints done. I don't know if I told you, but we are actually making 3, not 1, so that's why there's 3 seats there. Now this bit needs to be really accurate. You want to get, these are your front legs that I've got here. You want to get these the tightest fit you can, because you will see this joint. It will be on view on the finished product, and you want it to look good. So you want to get that width out exactly right. And then what you want to do is you want to set your saw to the depth of that cut that you just did, that rebate cut that you just did, and this will create that joint. So you just got to take it really slow, nibbling away at a time, because you don't want a loose joint at this point. As you can see, this is what I was trying to mean that I was doing on the saw, and then to say it is a really tight fit at this stage, and a little bit of sandpaper on them joints really does help if it's slightly too tight. I would definitely say go tighter than looser, because you'll be having these legs on quite a lot of times, and every time you take it back off it actually loosens the joint slightly. Now, if anybody is to know me personally, you'll all know I am absolutely rubbish at talking to people. I know exactly what I'm doing in my head, and I love woodwork so much, I just know what I'm doing. But when it comes to trying to teach someone or explain something, I'm a complete beginner. And so I really apologise if this video isn't making sense. And if it isn't, just mute me and watch the video without any audio, because that'll be better than nothing. Hopefully you still might learn something. Anyway, as far as the seat goes and the front legs, they're kind of jointed, so we need to now work on the back legs. But first we actually have to get the back legs out, and we have to get those shaped. You'll see this is a jig that I've made, which is a spindle jig, which just creates the shape of the leg that I want. This is also doable with a router, a large router and a bearing cutter. It's essentially what this cutter that I'm using is, but obviously it makes my life a lot easier using the tools that I have to hand. I hope that makes sense. So as you can see, there's 6 legs there, because remember we're making 3 chairs, not 1. And at this stage I kind of pair them up on kind of like the grains that match together. Now we don't want legs that just go straight up and down. We want them to be slightly kicked out left and right. If you find a picture of the chair or have a look at the thumbnail, you'll see that the back legs flare out at the top. And to do this we need to create an angle, and that angle needs to be within this joint, so we need to get that glued on now. So it's literally just gluing on a piece of wood at this stage, trying to get a really good grain match the best you can. It is quite hard to do, but the best grain match you can, because you will see it a little bit on the back. And because this is not a rocker or a fireside chair, this is an office chair, the legs don't obviously go all the way to the floor, so I was just cutting off that last little bit, 'cause I don't need it. And then at this stage we kind of set up a jig to go on the saw. This is perfectly safe, but just to make it safer I did get someone to just give me a hand, because you've always got to watch a wedge on a saw. You never want a wedge to start dropping down the side of a saw, because it will just jam it and then everything starts burning and you're reaching for that stop button and it just becomes a bit of a mess. So it's easier if you pull back, snap the wedge off and then go through again. So as you can see here, we've got that angle on that back leg, and then we've created another jig which is 90 degrees, and that will give us the right angle, because you want it on a 90 degrees still. And actually I kept one of the offcuts of the wedge, and that came in really handy for clamping it into this jig, because obviously that's the difference on the other side. So again, just like what we did on the seats, you're using a bearing guide, a guide bush. Why do I keep getting them confused? I have no idea. A guide bush and the same kind of straight cutter, nice and sharp, and you're just running in just like we did on the seats. So as you can see, that's all the back legs now with their joints in. And don't worry if there's slightly little steps or they're not fitting quite right, because you can use a little rebate plane to get in there and take them down to the perfect thickness after. Now you remember that the rebate cutter that we used in the seat had a round, and so we need to replicate that round on these back chairs, so when it goes into that corner, it goes into a round rather than a square, because it looks so much fancier. And so you just got to buy the opposite round to that rebate cutter. I hope that makes sense. So you need to put that on all the legs, and just be careful on your joints that you don't drop in, because it is running off a bearing guide. So that is really easy to do. So just take your time and get it right first time, instead of having to start back from scratch. So you can see here it's got that round on, which corresponds to the rebate cutter, as you can see here. I really hope that makes sense. I'm going to end this part 1 here with the seat and the legs being jointed in. So the front legs do fit in as well. I just haven't got them pushed in at this stage, but we'll come to that in part 2. I really hope you've enjoyed this part 1. Do subscribe, hit the notification bell, and tell me in the comments how I can improve on my voiceovers, because I know I am rubbish at it. And if you'd rather just the music, that's fine, I can do that. But I have so many comments saying, please can you explain what you're doing? So that's what I'm trying to do today, and if I'm honest, I absolutely hate doing it, but I will have a go for you. So if you want to see this in part 2, hit the thumbs up button and tell me in the comments, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Bye.